Today we're doing Candyman, the OG from 1992. Candyman now streaming on Peacock. And no, we're not getting any sponsoring money from Peacock. Just thought I'd point the fans in that direction since it is free to watch there if you have Peacock.
Or if you have the movie, it's free to watch on your own DVD.
Now that would be the best way to do it. I do actually have it on Blu-ray, and I sadly still watch it on Peacock because I'm a sucker. And it felt easier to just turn on Peacock than to actually get the Blu-ray from my shelf, walk over to the Blu-ray player, and slip the disc in. My remote control was able just to turn on Peacock. Now, Peacock did have commercials also, so I'm a super sucker. But that's not important. We're here to talk about the movie, not me.
Everyone, on 3, say it with me. 3, you lazy bastard.
Why? You didn't even count 1, 2. You just went straight to 3. Give a little bit of background here. There's some interesting things behind Candyman. The original story was a short story by none other than Clive Barker.
Called the Forbidden.
Also, Clive Barker, of course, author, writer, director, responsible for the Hellraiser series.
No, he's responsible for, I believe, 1 and 2.
He's the creator of the character Pinhead.
Oh, yeah.
He created the first one, and then they just took it and made a bunch of shitty sequels.
Which, to be honest with you, he's even said himself, Pinhead was never meant to be the main villain of that series.
Put a pin in that idea. But apparently watch the first 2, because I've heard good things about Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2.
Hellraiser's good. Hellraiser 2 is actually is a little bit better than the first movie, in my opinion.
The first one we probably pretty soon should podcast that one.
The first 2.
Those are probably interesting movies we could podcast about.
We can leave the rest alone. But the first 2, yes.
Yeah. One thing also to mention is that there was another story that influenced this. It was an article written about there was an actual murderer where somebody had came in through the medicine cabinet from the other apartment. That's the real life actual story that inspires, obviously, that's a big reoccurring thing in Candyman is the idea of somebody coming to the cabinet and Candyman himself comes through the mirror. So that was an article that was written. The writer did an article retrospective like 2016. He had never watched Candyman because he assumed it was just like a bad slasher movie. But then he went back and revisited and was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. So, casting-wise, we have Tony Todd, who might be Nick's favorite actor.
No.
Oh, well, he's not in Supernatural, so maybe not. But he's probably in your top 5, right?
My favorite actor, I'd have to say, is Will Smith.
What?
Yep.
Better than Robert Englund or Tony Todd?
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
Because as much as they are great...
That is Will-diculous, all right? Will-diculous.
Get out.
God willing, you will change your answer, right?
Get the fuck out. No.
Will I? No. Will you? No. Tony Todd is up there for you as one of your favorites.
Yes.
You've mentioned this many times before.
Yes.
Tony Todd is a horror icon, right?
Yes.
And for me, it's from 2 things. It's from Candyman and then also the Night of the Living Dead remake. There are 2 things where I think he's synonymous with horror.
I was going to say Final Destination, even though he has cameos, but it's still classified as horror.
Yeah, that's an iconic thing too, but just because it's like such a more of a cameo type role, it can't get the same level as Candyman and Night of the Living Dead remake. Tony Todd stars here, but you know who almost starred as the female lead in this movie?
Who?
And you have a wonderful family connection to her. Sandra Bullock. The return of Sandra Bullock. This was before Speed, before she was a known actress. She was the second choice, and they actually said that if Virginia Madsen had not been available, they were going to cast Sandra Bullock. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have.
Because Sandra Bullock has some chops. But Virginia Madsen has some chops, too.
And she's cute.
Virginia Madsen has some chops, though. So.
Oh, yeah. Virginia Madsen was great for this role.
Now, do you know who the original... This is almost too comical for me to believe, but it says it on IMDb. I'm going to give it some credibility and assume it's valid, but literally it says that the original choice for Candyman was motherfucking Eddie Murphy. And it actually says, as a footnote next to it, it says, but he wasn't tall enough. You can't make this up. You're telling me they offered this to Eddie Murphy? Now, it's so funny because I'm thinking about, I'm like, well, he was like Vampire in Brooklyn like the year after this, so maybe he was looking for this kind of shit. But would that have just ruined... I love Eddie Murphy, but that would have ruined Candyman. You would only do that if you're like doing a comedic movie. So I don't even know. It sounds too outlandish to be true, but nobody is like taking it down off IMDb. It's always been there. They make it seem like literally, we'll take Eddie Murphy. And they're like, he's not tall enough. Like, Eddie Murphy's one of the biggest stars in the world. He's like, he's not tall enough. If he wanted to do it, I'm pretty sure you would have changed the entire script to make it an Eddie Murphy movie. Yeah, they make it seem like, we thought about it. he was on board. We're like, you're not tall enough. Eddie Murphy, get away from our project. Tony Todd, get on board. Somebody, please, if you have more information about this, I need someone from the movie to be like, we considered Eddie Murphy, because it's amazing to think about.
I don't think they considered Eddie Murphy. There's no fucking way.
They couldn't even afford him. Like, it's a low budget movie. Like,
I would agree if they said they were considering like Wesley Snipes. I mean, he's still not as tall as Tony Todd.
I don't think they could have afforded him either, though.
So how the fuck did they afford Tony Todd?
What world are you living in where Tony Todd is some like high paid star actor? I love the guy, but before this, Night of the Living Dead remake, but it's not like he's like demanding Wesley Snipes money or Eddie Murphy money.
Wesley Snipes wasn't even demanding Wesley Snipes money yet.
Yeah, but
he wasn't demanding that kind of money till 1998 when he did Blade.
Well, he was demanding twice as much as Tony Todd, I bet.
Or how about Michael Jai White? I mean, it's not an action movie, but
1992. Well, he was sort of around back then, I think.
When did Spawn came out? It was like 1996.
95, 96, just yeah, not maybe 97, maybe 97.
Either way, it was.
But he did a Mike Tyson movie where he's playing Mike Tyson. It's like in the early 90s. It was a Tyson biopic he did, so he was around. But I know what you're thinking, but you don't need a martial artist for Candyman. It's not like he's gonna put the hook down.
You don't need him to.
He's not gonna put the hook down and hit the victim.
At
with
least
a spin
with
kick.
Wesley Snipes, he had that. Well, even Michael Jai White, they both have the deep
voice.
Deep voice. They can't. Their screen presence is demanding.
You know who was an interesting choice? I think could have probably pulled off is Danny Glover. I'm thinking of Danny Glover from Predator 2. He has that voice too.
And he's tall.
Yeah, like how his voice sounds in the Saw movie. It's like that would have been interesting too. I mean, I'm glad we got Tony Todd because this is one of those like to me this is like Freddy Krueger. I don't think you can't have a new Candyman. So
Morgan Freeman.
yeah, but his voice is so soothing. It's like before he hooks you, just like makes you feel all good and special inside.
Well, remember how Virginia Madison was looking throughout every scene Tony Todd was talking to her. She looked like she was showing off her neck for a vampire to go, nom.
I'd pay to see Morgan Freeman deliver a line of, I heard you looking for Candyman, bitch. Imagine Morgan Freeman saying that. Amazing.
Hey, remember in the movie...
Denzel would have been too big, but...
Remember the movie Wanted where Morgan Freeman... I think that's the only time I've ever heard Morgan Freeman curse. Oh, you gonna shoot this motherfucker? It's like, okay.
Speak of that, Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, gosh.
I heard you looking for Candyman, motherfucker.
I have to say motherfucker at least 5 times before in my cameo.
Look in the mirror and say snakes on a plane 5 times. I was thinking about if Eddie Murphy played him.
Oh, gosh.
You know how the scene would be, right? It'd be somebody looking in the mirror saying Candyman 4 times. On the 4th time, Eddie Murphy shows up in the mirror in his Vampire in Brooklyn outfit, and he says, I'm warning you to shut your fucking mouth and stop and get away from the mayor. God damn it.
And drive the fucking car.
The movie could have had some different casting, but the casting ended up being pretty spot on. So, the score, we got to talk about the score.
Oh, the score is amazing in this movie. They know exactly when to use it, how to use it.
Right from the opening credits, which is showing like the freeways, like cars driving, and you're getting like a look of overhead of Chicago, basically. That music hits, and I'm already like, wow, this is already like creepy as hell. I'm not gonna lie, folks, this movie is genuinely creepy. Like, this is one of those horror movies that you could easily be very, very scared watching.
Yeah, because to me, to be honest with you, I think they were going more with a psychological thriller kind of deal with this movie versus horror slasher.
Definitely not slasher, but it does have jump scares. It has like slow burn psychological.
The only
horror.
jump scare I got was a fake jump scare where the husband jumped on the bed.
Oh yeah, what about when she's looking in the mirror and the hook comes out the mirror? Remember towards the end?
Yeah, it still didn't make me jump.
It made Virginia Madsen jump because they didn't tell her that was gonna happen. So you got to watch the scene and keep in mind that apparently she actually ran all the way off stage even. Like in the movie, she runs out the apartment. Apparently, she was like, they set up to where she didn't know that was gonna happen. So it was actually a genuine. Horror director did on the smart sometimes. They set up a jump scare where the actor doesn't know about it, and you get that genuine reaction. That's a smart way to do it, honestly. We have we
have the skyline. Well, not skyline. We have the downward drone shot of Chicago while Tony Todd is delivering his first monologue. Because this movie, every time he's on, he gives like a good 5-sentence monologue.
Yeah, and it looks like at a certain point that an entire swarm of bees is about to take over the entire Chicago.
Yeah.
It's like he's unleashed the the entire beehive.
Release the bees.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting movie. It's gonna be a movie that's gonna be about bees taking over the city, but that's not the movie we got. But
Then get introduced to pretty much the story of what Candyman is.
right, so what we learn quickly is that Candyman represents
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary, basically an urban legend. All these kids in school have different stories about Candyman and what he's done, and we get one example of the story about the biker dude that comes over and his girlfriend stupidly says Candyman in the mirror 5 times for no reason at all that I can see.
And then she gets gutted.
Rightfully so. I mean, she knew what she was doing and she did the wrong thing. So, but it's told in a way of just like, okay, is this kid just making up this story? Because he's like basically, oh my sister's friend knew the guy. It's like this is what.
Oh, and don't forget, he apparently was so scared his hair turned white. He was so shocked.
Wow, these are urban legends. It's always bullshit usually. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and then we get her friend Bernadette, who's interviewing another kid who's obviously wants to have sex with this woman.
Yes, and that's why he's making up a story once again about Candyman.
Sitting there just like, so, what's your number?
Right.
So, can I get your number? Can I get it? I need those 7 digits that connects me to you telephonically.
And it's funny because Helen and Bernadette are basically doing a thesis on urban legends, and I guess from Helen's point of view, they're trying to disprove it, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. And
Disprove it or find some form of validity to the urban legends, as then her husband, who is a professor at the same college, is talking about the alligator urban legend, which
and Helen is pissed off at him because
he was
he's
supposed to wait.
He's jumped the gun and is already doing that, basically.
Which he does give her a pretty clear point of, it's in the curriculum, I have to do it when I have to do it.
He also gives a really early sign that he's having an affair.
Oh, that too.
She asks about it, and he's like, she's in love with me. Yeah, we know what you about to do, man.
Especially since it was like, yeah, we noticed she could not even look Virginia in the eye.
I think the movie does a good job. I think what they're aiming for is that Helen is so obsessed with this thesis that her relationship's falling apart, and she really can't
pick up on the subtleties. Yeah.
We just watched this first scene. You can already see that really the relationship is on the rocks.
But
probably.
I will say this, though. Going on the alligator thing that he was talking about, he mentioned that the reason the alligators ended up in the sewers is because the alligators got too big, they flushed them down the toilet. If an alligator's too big to keep, they're kind of too big to flush down a toilet. Most likely too big alligator-wise is probably about the size of my arm.
Never tried it, but I do think alligators are the most evil creatures in the world. Sometimes you'll see a picture where they eat like alligator with those eyes, evil eyes. And I just don't know what the purpose of them are. I feel like
they're very cuddly creatures. My dad had one when he was a kid. He actually had 2.
Alligator?
One my grandma thought needed sun and put him on a radiator where he burned to death. And then the second one, got so angry, ended up biting a kid, so the cops had to shoot it.
I was saying, you haven't heard the stories about alligators in Disney World eating little kids who come close to the water?
Well, then don't let them get close to the water.
That's true. It's bad parenting.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Candyman. So we find out pretty clearly that Helen, even though she's researching this, her stance clearly is like, she tells Bernadette, she's like, you don't believe in this, do you? Like, she's a skeptic. She doesn't believe in Candyman.
We do get a scene where Helen talks to a character named Kitty.
Yes.
Who explains that, yes, Candyman's already been killing people and Cabrini Green.
Yes, and now she can actually start to find out about an actual real murder that happened. Not an urban legend. This is actually a real murder where somebody supposedly was killed with a hook. Mm-hmm. So now we're getting some nitty gritty. They also have a cool scene where, to go back to the mirror thing, she's showing that the mirror, basically, there's no wall there. Mm-hmm. Behind the mirror, essentially, is just leads into the other room, basically.
Yeah, her complex, the apartment complex she's living in, and Cabrini Green were actually made in the exact same format.
Yes, yeah. And so the movie, this is the more nuanced, like, social, economic issues that it's touching upon. It's not beating you over the head with it, basically, but basically talking about, okay, the separation hair and why they couldn't have that hair. Well, it's interesting, but you gotta, it's kind of on the undercurrent and not in your face, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Key thing here is Helen goes ahead and says Candyman 5 times in there. And
something tells me that's a bad idea.
And Bernadette, being smart, is like, nope. She says it 4 times. She's like, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, but she was still in the mirror when the 5th time was said.
You think that's part of the rules?
Most likely.
if Candyman's fair, he should give her a break because it feels like she was like, I'm not doing that fifth one.
Yeah, but notice how he didn't show up. So he has to be fake. But now they decide to go to Cabrini Green by themselves.
With no
two
gun.
women.
No gun.
No gun. They do have pepper spray.
No knife.
And they look like cops.
Very much like cops. It looks like investigative reporters / cops.
Yeah, so they go in, and even Helen tells Bernadette, look, they think we're cops, we're safe. And I'm like, no. If they think you're cops, you're in more danger than if you were just women walking in there.
Yeah, Helen, again, like, she's so focused on the thesis that she seems to be oblivious to everything around her. She doesn't understand these living conditions, the kind of people that are here. She doesn't understand the crime element she's putting herself into. She thinks she can just, like, walk in any situation and walk out. She has the blinders on. She's so focused on this project.
No, like I said, but no, seriously, if they thought if they literally thought those women were cops, to be fair, they'd be dead the minute they got it. Because the further up you go, the less of an escape route you now have.
Oh, we're going to see pretty soon. There's some consequences for coming in that neighborhood, so.
Oh, yeah, like a Candyman exposition dump.
Well, listen, sometimes you got to have it.
I mean, this is where we find out.
It's like bagel bites.
Yeah, this is where
sometimes you got to have it.
This is where we find out about who the Candyman is. His name is Daniel, was it Robitussin?
Daniel Robitussin, yes.
Robitussin? Robitussin.
Let's just say Tony Todd.
Yeah. This is where we find out his name is Tony Todd.
A.K.A. Daniel.
And that his father was a slave who got himself free and became a pretty good, a bank teller? Either way, he ended up in a pretty good family because he went to one of the best schools he was allowed to go to.
No, his father had manufactured some kind of shoe thing and got rich through manufacturing shoes.
Oh, God.
And from that, he sent young Candyman to different schools, different private academies.
And he became a painter.
A lot of fellow students that he could hook. No, he didn't actually hook any students at that point. He was just a good student on the right track and became a great painter.
Yep, became a good painter where most stories like this, you know, if you ever saw the movie Jungle Fever, you probably understand where this is going.
He fell in love with a girl that he was doing a portrait for.
Mm-hmm.
And a white woman, and the father found out. And the father
cut his hand.
Did not per se just say, you can't date my daughter. The father took revenge in a very extreme way.
Yep, he cut off his hand. Well, now he has no hand, so Tony Todd replaced it with a hook on a bloody stump. Then he had honey rubbed all over him, where them bees came and just stung the shit out of him.
An entire beehive, and thus Candyman. Now, I gotta say, if I have a daughter and she's dating somebody I don't like, I don't know if I'm gonna go to that extreme. I mean, come on, man. You rub some honey on them and have bees stinging them? It's creative, but damn, holy shit.
So who's the real villain here? Anyway.
Definitely her father.
Right.
Like, if Candyman, the only reason Candyman's a villain is because, as we'll see, he's basically killing innocent people. His drive is he has to shed innocent blood. If he was killing people that were bad, then he would be sympathetic, but the way he kills people and the people he kills, he's not sympathetic.
Right, because he just kills anyone who comes up and says his name 5 times in a mirror.
Well, didn't he kill a baby? So my problem is I don't understand some of the killings they talk about as far as, was that him or was that the human Candyman? So
what I'm understanding is everything done, for the most part, is human Candyman.
And that's what the cops think. But human Candyman seems like,
I mean,
like a petty criminal, not like a massive murderer.
Well,
I know we only get like one scene of him, really. But
yeah, but when we get further into it, I can kind of explain my theory on why I think human Candyman did most of the killings at Cabrini Green.
Okay, because literally they say a baby died.
No, they said he cut off the penis of one of the kids.
What the hell?
But yeah, that's pretty much where we segue into Helen going back to Cabrini Green by herself.
By herself, once again, no gun, no knife.
Looking like a damn cop. Well, Helen gets Jake to show her where Candyman is, where he tells her the tragic story of a kid who needed to use the restroom.
And let me just say, Jake, finally a decent actor, child actor, in a horror film. Nightmare on Elm Street series, you could learn a thing or two from the casting director of Candyman. Found a decent child actor who did not get on my nerves, so...
And then, that's probably because the kid wasn't in the movie all that much.
He was used just the right amount,
yep.
I felt like.
But
he leads her to what he thinks is Candyman.
Yep. Which then
Yeah, you actually,
Guy goes in,
there was a cool shot of like, you remember when like the kid's outside and like
waiting for it to come out.
someone shows up behind him, and I'm like, oh shit, and he's like Candyman, like, damn. I'm thinking that's the real thing, but
And then the guy comes in, and we get the line.
best line ever.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
The word bitch triggers Freddy in your mind so much.
Yeah, I see that.
It's like,
He goes in to meet Helen. Helen's like, I'm trying to get out of here. And he goes, heard you looking for a Candyman, bitch. No, she's not. She ain't looking for no Candyman.
you found him and now get a hook to the head.
Yep.
Now, this is interesting.
Why didn't he kill her?
What was he trying to do? He hit her really hard in the head, though.
And the sounds like he hit her multiple times.
Yeah, and there's blood coming from her head. Like, she should be dead, probably.
No, unconscious. But what I'm still wondering, because when you see her, it looks like it was still only the one hit instead of multiple.
But you're right, there's a second sound effect indicating a second hit.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, so...
But this dude actually has a hook on his head.
Yeah,
A real hook.
yeah.
Crazy.
But what I'm trying to figure out is, he killed somebody in there. Okay. He cut off a kid's penis. But yet, he's not going to kill this woman who could easily now identify him because he walked in there with no mask.
This is why I don't think see him as that dude, because he walks in and he has like kids as like his backup following him too. He's like a petty small gang criminal leader, and I mean it's weird that like someone like that, let's say he's a drug dealer, he actually has a hook on his head. You think he had like a gun or something like that? He has a hook. But what if somebody else has a gun?
I'm still wondering, like, why did he purposely leave her alive? There's no way he thought, okay, she's unconscious, I killed her. If he's already killed someone, he knows what a dead body looks like.
Not that, but he's the dumbest criminal ever. He does this and immediately gets caught by the police.
Yeah.
He's literally in the lineup for her to identify him in the next scene.
So I'm still wondering, why did he leave her alive? If he didn't leave her alive, he would not have been caught. And then we wouldn't have a movie, but...
It's a half measure, because if you're going to knock her out like that, you
Kill
might
her!
as well finish the job. But that's why I'm thinking that maybe he's not responsible for the murders. Maybe it is all Candyman. I don't know.
Well...
So where the story goes pretty much is that she identifies fake Candyman in the lineup.
Yep.
Fake Candyman goes to jail.
Yep.
Problem solved. Candyman's off the streets.
Yep.
And she tells little kid Jake, she's like, hey, Candyman wasn't real. He was just a bad man saying he was this, but he wasn't real.
Candyman not real?
The way Jake said, I felt for him, it looked like he was just told that Santa Claus wasn't real, which makes it kind of weird because like he looks very disappointed that there's no mass serial killer named Candyman.
Santa Claus ain't real?
So we get Helen basically readjusting back to her life post-hospital, I can only think, severe concussion.
Yep.
She's cooking dinner for her husband,
Yep.
trying to finally repair that relationship.
Yep.
She's meeting with Bernadette. They have new photos they're developing.
Yep.
Everything's back to normal, but what she doesn't know is that when she apprehended the fake Candyman and put all the blame on him, that might have pissed off the real Candyman.
That was not coming out right.
What? You're just not on your voice games.
No,
at all,
I'm not.
so-
Holy fuck. Okay.
Yeah, I want the genuine Helen. I want the Candyman voice Helen. Come on. This is the best scene in the movie, maybe. Man. Yes?
Helen.
Yeah, who's that? If I'm in a parking garage and I hear a motherfucking Candyman say my voice like that, I'm not saying, hey, who's that? Hey, whoever that is, you want to come over and have a cup of tea with me? She's just very casual. And then she looks across the garage. Who is it? Motherfucking...
Tony Todd, standing there, hands behind his back, looking up in the air.
What does he say? He says,
I heard you looking for Candyman, bitch.
and it's just hilarious because he's obviously in cahoots with the fake Candyman. They're
Yeah.
working together, man. They're working together.
Yeah, but for some reason, Tony Todd saying bitch doesn't sound as right.
It's just not his word. It doesn't roll off the tongue for him at
No.
all.
No,
No, he's more likely to say Helen. So anyways, but actually no, he's talking about the writing on the wall and the...
Well, he was saying that. He was also mentioning that she had messed up his congregation and now he needs to put it back together.
Basically, when she put the blame on fake Candyman, she's trying to make the legend of Candyman go away. And that's just like Freddy Krueger. Candyman needs a legend to keep getting told. He needs fear out there of him so he can actually keep doing his thing. This is 40 minutes of the movie that you get your first Candyman appearance.
Mm-hmm.
It's slow burn, but at this point, I wasn't bored. And
Because
now
you
he's
got
here,
the
and it's
mystery.
I'm super excited for the second half of the movie.
So here's the one thing I'm wondering. So she blacks out and ends up back in the woman's house, Anne Marie's house. What I'm trying to figure out,
This was cruel to the animals, yes.
well, besides that,
Okay.
why would you wake up covered in blood, you see the dog's head, see the knife.
Yep.
Why would you pick up the knife?
I think I'm gonna just freestyle here. I think she smelled some fruit in the kitchen, and she thought she'd go to the kitchen with the knife and chop the fruit up and eat a slice of the orange.
So I guess the blood all over, it was not blood, it was raspberry jam.
It was raspberry jam.
It's raspberry jam.
That's, I think, was the director's intention. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I could be wrong, but
Or
I don't
pureed
think so.
or pureed watermelon.
I'm not just, now you're just being silly. So, what this starts is Candyman is now framing Helen, basically.
Yes.
Now the cops have their sights set on Helen.
Yes.
Because she is clearly the most obvious suspect when she's found stabbing.
She's not stabbing. She's about to. She has the knife in the air. She's screaming at Anne
No,
Marie,
at one point
calm down.
No, she stabbed her in the shoulder too.
Because Anne Marie was right on top of her, sitting there slamming her face up against the door.
Because from Anne Marie's perspective, she stole her baby and cut off her dog's head.
Yes.
She should get stabbed. Now Helen is in custody because she has blood all over her. And we have an uncomfortable scene where the police officer's asking her to take off all her clothes.
Very uncomfortable scene.
She uses her phone call to call her husband.
At, what is it, 3 o'clock in the morning?
3 o'clock in the morning, and the phone rings. We cut to the bedroom to see the husband is not there.
He's with the student.
I was going to say, I think there's something to do with that student from the first scene.
Yeah, he's with that blonde student that couldn't look Helen in the eye.
But when Helen asks him, he says, I was fast asleep.
Yeah, I was fast asleep. So again, be honest with you,
It could happen.
with this movie trying to pretty much be a psychological thriller, what we should not see is anything that's not in Helen's point of view. It should not have, to my opinion, should not have cut to the bedroom, showing that the husband wasn't there.
You're basically saying it works better, and I agree, if this is just a paranoid thought she's having, like, is my husband cheating on me? But we don't know if he's actually cheating. Basically, this may work better if her husband cheating is just like a paranoid delusion she's having. We, the audience, don't know if he's cheating. At the end, you can still confirm when he's with the girl at the last scene.
Right.
But throughout the movie, we don't know. But unfortunately, they show that he's not there and he's lying. So.
Right. So.
But I think what they're doing is basically Helen's entire life is falling apart. Everything's going to shit. Her relationship, her job, her mental health, everything is crumbling. At the beginning of the movie, she was a stable, successful person. Now everything's going to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Tony Todd effect. So this is the Candyman effect. So.
Oh yeah. So as she's been processed, her husband finally shows up to get her out of there.
Probably the next day, yeah.
Yeah, it was the next day. Finally shows up, gets her out of jail.
He's a heavy sleeper, so.
Very heavy. Get her to home. He goes out to pick up some stuff when Bernadette comes up, but she's already pretty much being attacked by Candyman at this point.
So this scene was a little bit awkward because Bernadette's knocking on the door, right? And nobody's really answering. But then Helen basically
Screaming.
makes things worse because she screams.
But she's trying to scream at her, Bernadette, leave. Run away.
What Bernadette just hears is, oh, my friend Helen's in trouble. She doesn't hear Bernadette go away because it's not communicated that. So Bernadette walks in the room, and the door immediately slams shut behind her, which is creepy as shit. A little small detail.
Yeah, with Daniel Robitussin.
Him and Bernadette, they have a moment here. They lock eyes, and I'll tell you, the romantic chemistry, they don't show what happened, but I think what happened is I think he asked her out on a date right there. He hadn't been on a date in a long time. He asked Bernadette on a date. She said no because obviously he's got a hook for her hand, and then he took out his frustrations on her. But man, they locked eyes, and I saw the fireworks sparkle, and I was like, man, in another world, this would be a romantic comedy. And Bernadette and the Candyman getting together. share that same perspective that I came to? Because it was right there in front of you. I mean, it's like the romantic sparks just flying, man, flying out of my TV. So
No.
Bernadette got the worst of anybody. When they show her body,
She was fucked.
I had to pause it. That was the most mutilated body I've ever seen in my life in a horror movie. She was literally disemboweled,
Oh, yeah.
like from the stomach all the way to the throat, and she turned green. That's a good detail. Bodies change colors, and sometimes horror movies forget that it's not realistic. But I was like, damn. And the cops are stupid because they're thinking Helen did it, but I think Helen has like a regular knife in her hand, so with that, right?
Yeah. She pulled that knife to defend herself when Candyman came at her.
It doesn't even look on the surface. It doesn't look like she would have the strength. If I'm a cop, like, it doesn't look like she has the strength to actually do that to Bernadette. Does that make sense?
Bernadette could have been in so much shock that she didn't fight back.
Like, her body's so mutilated, like it would have to be a big ass hook. I mean, them thinking that Helen with a little small kitchen knife did that is just bad policing, in my opinion. But that said, Helen's pretty much screwed because now, like, I mean, she's by far clearly guilty from their perspective. So.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, at this point in the movie, the husband is justified by moving on from Helen because from his perspective, my wife is a murderer. Her best friend is laying on the ground, gutted. I'm not sharing a bed with this woman. Now his affair, I know he already started that affair previously, but now I don't blame him now for being like, I'm getting away from this girl.
Well, now Helen goes to the hospital. Candyman comes to her. She has a psycho freak out, and they drug her.
Is this where she has to go see the therapist?
A little bit after she sees the therapist, but yeah.
Well, let's talk about the therapist because the therapist,
drugs.
yeah, the therapist is a non-believer.
Oh, let's mention how much time has passed.
Oh yeah.
1 month has passed since that scene to her being taken to the therapist.
Yep. And because the therapist doesn't believe, she decides she's going to call Candyman.
Oh yeah, she decided I'm done with this shit.
She got the man killed.
Yep.
This was the most.
She was done with this shit.
Yeah, she was like, all right, I got to get out of this hospital. So, Candyman, come help me out.
Yep. Candyman kills Burke, releases Helen after being sedated for a month. Curious, because they still blame Helen for killing Burke, the therapist.
Yes.
What did she use to kill him?
Yeah, and wasn't she like locked to the seat or something like that? Like tied to the seat or something?
Well, that's when the way Candyman released her bindings looked like that she was just literally released, almost like she talked Burke into taking off the straps. Then she could.
That's what I'm saying. Look at the size of Helen and looking at the things she's pulling off. If you're a cop, you gotta at least be suspect of like.
Is she able to do this?
These deaths are so brutal.
Yeah.
Well, anyways.
Oh, let's get to the biggest revelation in this entire movie. Are you ready to hear it?
I am.
Oh my God, Trevor is cheating on Helen.
What?
Oh no,
Trevor, how could you? I never would have suspected this.
And it's with. I don't think I wrote her name down.
The 19-year-old student.
Stacy.
Stacy.
Yep, Stacy. And
I'm guessing that he actually felt neglected by Helen. She's so focused on her own shit. They probably didn't have any kind of emotional connection. Whereas this 19-year-old is a student who looks up to him and is getting a lot of attention and treating him how he wants to be treated. Helen, outside of making that dinner for him, which she did probably was like a month too late. Probably pretty neglectful. She's focused on her own career and not really, yeah.
Oh man.
And she's actually yelling at him for the sake of her career. Why'd you go ahead and do the things too soon? But
yeah, but still, it's just.
It's an attention to ego thing. This 19-year-old doesn't have a career. She's gonna just like look up to me and ask questions and stuff. Helen's gonna come home and talk about her project, and it's a cry for attention. Basically.
And then he sees this young woman who he finds attractive, giving him all the attention he wants. So he's like, I finally found my companion.
Then he thinks, well, can I get away with it? And he almost did, but not really.
Then Helen
walks in on them painting.
Her painting. Trevor was just in the back in a robe, acting, I guess, like king of the house.
Yeah. Well.
One thing I'm wondering. I understand that she thinks that Helen is a serial killer, but she has some of the worst flight or fight responses ever. Notice how the minute she sees Helen, she turns around happy and giddy, sees Helen, falls down. Like, you just got yourself in a corner. You're just as bad as the girl from part 2 of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and you knew that he was a married man. So you knew this was a possibility. The wife was going to come home and find out and try to kill you. The fact that the wife had to be a serial killer, a massive murderer, means you're really
kind of moot.
Yeah, if I was, I'd just jump out the window. So.
Right. So I'm just sitting there like, really? That's her? Okay, whatever. From what I understand from Tony Todd, was one of the hardest scenes he ever had to film because he actually had to put live bees in his mouth.
Yeah, I read this.
Which he got stung, 7, 8 times?
This took a while to get right. You know, these bees were specifically made, like the bees had to be a certain age to control their level of activity, how calm they were, basically. So they had to be, I think they said, like 2 years old. So all these bees were bees they actually had to home grow, basically.
Right.
And then you also, I'm not sure if you heard about the bonus that Tony Todd would get for every, in his contract was that.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that.
For every bee sting, he would get $1,000. And he was stung during the course of the movie 23 times, thus making $23,000.
Yeah, I did hear about that, actually.
Smart.
But yeah, so it's a good thing the man was not allergic to bees.
Virginia Madsen was, and almost turned down the movie because she was like, I'm going to have to do all these bees. So I think they tried to give her a break.
I think all the bees that were technically on her were all CGI.
I think if you're an actor who signed up for this movie, you're probably thinking, oh, these are going to be fake bees, right? The fact that they're real bees is amazing because you're right. Tony Todd has like a mouthful of bees.
Mm-hmm.
What? Who agrees to that?
Tony Todd.
Yeah.
So here's a plot twist. They don't outright say it, which is another thing I like about this movie. It definitely goes off of show, don't tell. And this one, it shows a mural of what happened to Candyman. And in the back, if you pay attention and you hear him say, "It was always you," you see what looks like Helen among the people.
Right.
So it's pretty much implied in this movie that she is like a reincarnation or just a lookalike of the woman he fell in love with that caused his death.
It's got to be more than just a lookalike. It can't be just, oh, you look like the girl. Maybe a family member, an ancestor.
But I will say this: so now that we figured out who she is to him, why in this whole movie was he going after her saying, "You messed up my congregation. I must be worshipped"? What's with the whole worshiping angle when we find out who she is to him?
Listen, the man, bigger than his hook is his ego, right? So
apparently he has a god complex.
But this whole the whole thing about him like seeing her that way and all that, it's still just about, though, he just discovered that now maybe, but she came to him. He didn't come to her. She was investigating. She said his name 5 times. She initiated the whole thing. It wasn't like he had some plan to get Helen. She made it so he had to actually start confronting her. And then he was like, hey. It's kind of weird because that's how it plays out, but you're right. From his first dialogue, he's like, Helen, you're the one I've chosen and stuff like that. But like she brought him to her, it seems like. So if she didn't investigate, do this thesis, say his name 5 times, there was no sign of him just randomly coming into her life. So it's tricky.
Right. So so now we find out Candyman took the baby and is now hiding in the burn pile that Cabrini Green residents have made up. Yeah,
they have a party they do, basically a burning party.
Yep. I think it's supposed to kind of release the evil spirits or some shit like that.
And this is where Candyman plans to sacrifice
the baby.
Baby Anthony.
Yep. So we go there. Helen goes in, and Jake, unfortunately, only sees the hook that Helen is carrying. So in his mind, Candyman.
So he starts this party early.
Oh, yeah. In which case, yeah, Helen does save the baby. She gets away from Candyman, but in the process burns to death.
So I don't really know if it was that clear, like what was going on here, what Candyman was trying to accomplish here, what she was trying to accomplish. The whole thing, she was like, you lied to me. Like, the idea was that Helen gives herself and the baby gets to live. But Candyman, I guess, was like, all 3 of us are going to burn here.
Mm.
Why? What was Candyman doing? I don't understand what his mission was there.
So, to be honest, we'll go, if we do the second one, I do have a theory with that, but it kind of goes with what
might as well
part
say
2
it now,
is.
because I don't think there's going to be a part 2.
Well, if there isn't. And so in part 2, It's pretty much like he's trying to get his family back together, because we find out in part 2 that the woman that he fell in love with, he took her virginity. They had sex, yada yada. She had his kid.
Mm-hmm.
So later in the movie, we're following the main girl. You find out she's pregnant and about to have a kid. So he says he pretty much wants that family that he never got to hold and love.
Okay.
So in this case, the reason he's trying to kill both Helen, because Helen supposedly looks like the woman that he fell in love with, and the baby, as in the baby he would have had he survived.
Oh, okay, that makes
So
sense.
it's kind of like him trying to get his family back.
Because if they die, basically, they join him in Candyman land.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. But Helen basically says, nope, I'm going to save this baby. So she gets away with the baby, and Candyman starts reacting to the fire like, no, the fire, come back. He's suddenly very scared, and I'm like, is he in human form? The fire is actually burning him.
No, what I think it is...
He looks like he died here.
What I think it is because he still wants the kid also to die. She gets out, yeah, she may die, but the baby's going to live. So he doesn't get what he wants.
Okay, so basically, when he's in that fire, he's not actually thinking, I'm dying. He's just like, my plan is messed up, and that's why I'm at.
Yes.
But it seems like...
He's getting hurt from the fire.
It seems like this is the end for him for this movie. I mean, this is how he goes away in the movie, so...
Right, well...
But you're right. Helen, unfortunately, the ultimate sacrifice. Our hair burns off, and she burns, and...
And then we get a funeral scene where all the residents of Cabrini Green show up. Jake gives her the hook back.
So
to me, it feels like they're showing her a sign of respect for saving the baby from the fire.
But I think they're also doing away with Candyman.
Right.
They throw the hook in the casket, and I think basically they're like, okay, we're not going to even talk about Candyman anymore. I think that's really how you beat him, basically. I think it's symbolic of, like, just that this is also Candyman ends with her, basically.
Right.
And that makes sense then with what we get next.
Because Trevor, distraught from her death, even though he's a sick individual who decided to cheat on his wife, if again, psychological thriller, if Candyman technically did not exist throughout this movie, that could have also caused her psychosis.
Sure.
So him cheating on her, but he's still, in a sick way, still loved her.
I think it shows at the end, basically, that he's bored with the 19-year-old.
And he wants his wife back.
He wants his wife back. He had his fling, and this is the time where it's like, I want to go back to my wife, but she's gone. So
he's distraught.
So this is where we disagree, though. He starts saying her name, and the first three are very organic. They're just like, oh, Helen. But the last two times he says it, he looks in the mirror, he figures something out, and he's like, hey, I'm going to try to summon her. I feel like the last two ones he says are intentional.
I don't.
You feel like he just keeps just
distraught and just rambling her name off.
Well, I think it's intentional, but either way,
he still dies.
Guess who shows up?
Helen. With the hook.
You know what she should have said? She said,
heard you looking for Helen, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. and then just...
the thing is, when she kills him, notice how she looks like she's getting off on it.
Yeah. She really hated him, and it's sad because he was very traumatized. He was missing her, and she comes back, but...
It's too damn late.
It's not his wife anymore. It's Candyman/wife, so...
Yeah, it's Candyman's wife now.
Poor 19-year-old walks in and finds him gutted on the floor. Her whole life is ruined now too.
Because she's holding the knife.
She's framed. She gonna be. What's she gonna tell the cops?
Well, I mean,
he was in the bathroom and
at least the knife didn't have any blood on it.
But literally, what's her story gonna be? So I was making food for the kitchen. He's in the bathroom. He's talking. I walk in the bathroom.
He's dead.
He's gutted himself. Doesn't make sense.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, that's the end of the movie.
And the movie, Helen is the new Candyman, supposedly, but
Candy Woman.
But they will never pick up on that and actually advance on that. So
nope.
But she became her own urban legend. We do see the painting at the end also, which now has her instead of Candyman.
Yes.
So she's the new mythical figure in Cabaret Green.
Cabrini.
Caprini.
Yes.
So that's a real place they shot at too. So it's all based on a real place, which makes it a lot more authentic. So,
Anyway, so for our categories, best performance.
I was telling you earlier when we were talking about it, it's like I went in thinking this is going to be an easy lock for Tony Todd because you think of Candyman, you think of Tony Todd, right? But I was so blown away by the level of mental anguish and like slowly descending into craziness that Virginia Madsen has to do. She pulls it off. She's not the most likable person, but she's just likable enough to where you are rooting for her. But you're also like, damn, she's just falling to pieces basically. And she's in every single scene. Tony Todd doesn't even come into 40 minutes of the movie, so I can't give him the best performance based on the time factor either. I always say it's like the best performance is good, but if it's like a 10-minute performance, he's on the screen for 10 minutes. She's on the screen for an hour and a half. Gotta go with Virginia Madsen.
I have to agree with you. She did an amazing job. I really couldn't picture anyone else playing this role.
I was shocked. She said in an interview that, like, in her career now, like, she's known for this role, which is good, but I'm just, like, sad. I'm like, she should have got, like, offers on top of offers afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Sandra Bullock, who was the second choice, would just immediately blow up and have one of the best careers of all time. But Virginia Madsen, who got the role, just is only known for Candyman.
Worst performance. You may hate me. Candyman faker. Not because of the actor. Because they had him not kill somebody when he's supposed to be the one taking over the killing. So really it's not really the actor himself. It's just he'd made a stupid decision. It was the dumbest decision in the entire movie.
I'm going to say, and this is maybe not fair to them because it's a short thing, but in that first story that's told with the biker dude and the girl.
Are you talking about the girl she was talking to or the guy that Bernadette was talking to?
Yeah, when they tell the story and they cut to like the biker dude coming over, those two actors, like they almost establish like a comedic, horrible tone because they're so bad. They're so cheesy. I know it's only 2 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and say them.
I mean, it's hard to choose anybody. I'm choosing one not by acting chops, but just because of how stupid the decision was.
When the girl's in the bathroom, she's getting ready, she's like, go downstairs, I got something for you. The guy's sitting on the couch, and he gives the most shit-eating
grin.
like look of satisfaction before the blood comes to the wall. I'm like, I hate this guy. Anyways.
So, best scene. I think me and you will agree that for me, first time Candyman appears in the parking garage.
So iconic. That video, if you look Candyman on YouTube, like the clips from the first movie, that one has the most views because, first of all, that first introduction to Tony Todd's voice. First time hearing, I am the writing on the walls. Classic speech. And then he sets the tone for the whole second half of the movie. So
right, and then the worst scene for me is when Helen finds out that Trevor's cheating on her.
Yeah, that was bad.
For me, that's a throwaway scene. We could have done without it. I mean, yeah. What's the point? It's one story if we didn't already get the clues as subtly as a brick wall with the call scene in the prison.
Yeah.
If we didn't get that, the scene wouldn't be that much of a throwaway.
True.
But because we already got that scene, we did not need the confirmation that he's cheating. We already knew. I understand she would go back to her house looking for a husband, but at that point she could have ran in. It's been a month later. Ran in, see the whole house has changed. And then he goes, yeah, we're not together no more.
I wonder if I may have wanted to get rid of the first time that her and Bernadette go to the place. Remember they go together the first time.
Right.
I might just cut to that second time she goes and gets hit in the head, basically.
And say Bernadette was too cautious to go.
Because the movie, if there's a complaint, you could say for some people maybe it is kind of slow paced at the beginning. There's a lot of exposition going on, a lot of story exposition going on, and not really much action. You could maybe cut that out and just get right to the point of her finding that it takes a long time to get to her getting attacked by the fake Candyman and setting up Tony Todd to arrive. So maybe you cut that out. And
personally, I think we still need that scene because it does set up the actual setting that we're going to be needing for most of this movie.
Well, then cut out that damn opening that scene, the opening scene I'm talking about, with the guy telling the story.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think they show Tony Todd there for a second.
They do.
And
then blood.
That takes away from it. It's like, all right, we should see him for the first time at that 40-minute mark, but He's there in the mirror at the beginning, and
That's why I don't
blowing
classify
the
that.
surprise.
That's why I don't classify that as his first appearance.
But it's only ruined by that damn mirror scene.
So, for me, what would you want explored more? For me, nothing. We pretty much get a pretty open, shut case movie with everything we need to know about the villain, everything we need to know about the main character, and everything we need to know about the story in order to stay invested in it.
Yeah, nothing stands out. I mean, of course, I would love even more backstory on Candyman. Of course,
We get all the backstory we need.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm saying
That gets retconned in the next movie.
Yeah, I'm saying I wouldn't mind if they gave like another story about Candyman. I'd be listening to it, but nothing's really needed. So that's an ixnay on the cut to cine.
And then who or what would you want to eliminate? And to be honest, I'd said Trevor and his whole side plot of him cheating. It may add to the psychosis, but to be honest, since we know that Candyman is a real entity in this movie,
Yeah.
That's the only psychosis we need with her.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that cop that she talks to a few times. I'm not sure if he ever actually factors in any kind of important way. But I guess you have to have a cop there during the interrogation scenes.
Yeah.
Who to get rid of, man? Yeah, I guess I got to go with, you're right, the husband, because you could have cut out half that stuff and still showed him cheating at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't need all the setup scenes and that dinner scene that basically they're having dinner. It's kind of like just. Blah.
That's where we get
Slow
our
pace.
Candyman backstory, but.
No, I mean when she cooks him dinner.
Oh, cook some dinner, yeah.
This is like another thing that's slowing the pace down a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So, I just want to mention one more thing before we get to our final thoughts. Bad Stacy. When you're cooking, you do not take the chef's knife that's meant to be sharp and start beating the blade against your fucking hand. That's how you get cut. That's how you get a deep cut. That's how you cut your damn fingers off.
Look, she's got bigger problems. The guy she was messing with is gutted and dead in the bathroom. She's got bigger fish to fry.
You do not beat the blade of the knife against your hand. That's how you have to change out your fingers for damn hooks for fingers.
She's 19. Her brain's not even fully formed. We gotta give her at least until 25.
Bad Stacy. No.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. So my final thoughts is all the actors did an amazing job. Even, to be honest, even Candyman Faker.
Oh, that is one of the best lines ever. So
Yeah, even he did an amazing job. The setting was both disturbing and interesting for everything we need to know about the situation that's going on. The villain is definitely iconic. The score is amazing.
amazing. The creator of the score initially didn't like the movie. He thought when he was doing the score that he was doing like a really highbrow, serious movie. And then when he first, I guess, checked it out or heard about it, he thought it was made as more like a low-rent slasher. But over the years, he came around to it, and now he's like, well, the movie's a classic, so I have to be proud of that. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm going to have to give this a 3, because whereas this movie has barely any problems, minus a few nitpicks, it's definitely not for everybody. Everyone, when they hear, because this movie's classified as a slasher, I classify it more as a psychological thriller, because for those who have not seen it, is going to be asking the question, is Candyman real? Is this just a figment of her imagination? Is she just going insane? But
all of the above.
yeah, pretty much. And then, but it's definitely not for everybody, because it takes 40 minutes, as Vic said, to get into the meat of the story. Other than that, the whole beginning of it is really setting up all these characters so you can hopefully feel invested in their survival. So overall, I'm giving this a 3. It's a good watch. If you like horror, if you like psychological thrillers, it's definitely great to watch. If you came to this expecting a full-blown slasher, yeah, just go to Tubi. Got plenty there.
Yeah, it's funny. I would say the exact same thing. If you go in expecting a slasher, then you will be disappointed. There's not that many kills, and most of the kills come later in the movie. Now, That said, if you understand that this is not Freddy, this is not Jason, this is not Michael Myers, Candyman is its own thing. It's a psychological, slow burn horror movie. That means you have to have patience when you watch it. And if you don't have the patience, then the first 30, 40 minutes can feel like a bit of a drag. And that's why I'm giving it 3 stars and not 3.5 or 4, because the pace of the movie is a little bit slow at the beginning. There's a lot of scenes of just characters talking, a lot of like exposition, a lot of stuff that maybe less talking, more action could have helped a little bit. But for me personally, like, I like slow burns. I don't mind the slow burn aspect of it. But as Nick said, for a lot of horror fans, they may get bored in the first 40 minutes. Stick it out though, have patience. You get to that 40 minutes, the second half of the movie is an amazing descent into basically like her whole life is fucked up. Her whole life goes to shit, mentally, physically, every single way, her relationship, all that. You get a lot of Tony Todd in the second half. So I'm gonna go with 3 stars. It's a very enjoyable movie, as you said. You already kind of said everything that has to be said. Basically, has an amazing score. The setting of it makes it unique in horror movies, and the acting is phenomenal from Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd. So I'm gonna say 3 stars. If it would almost be a 4-star movie if the ending was a little bit more clear about what was going on at the end, like Candyman's intentions, and then also if they cut out 1 or 2 scenes, maybe just a few scenes at the beginning, to get to Tony Todd a little bit quicker. But 3 stars is still it's a classic in the horror genre, no doubt.
So everyone, as always, you don't have to go home, but you got to get the fuck out of here. Come back next week when we go to New Orleans for Candyman 2.
We will not be doing Candyman 2 next week. Now, that said,
Candyman 2.
now, if you do go home, do not say Candyman in the mirror 5 times. Do not say Hell in the mirror 5 times.
Anyway, everyone, have a good night. Remember, if you got to say Candyman, say it 6 times. It may confuse them enough so that way you will run away. Take care.
Later.